We are following breaking news. We have new video of Luigi Mangione's arrival at a courthouse in Pennsylvania. That's where we're anticipating an extradition hearing for the 26-year-old Ivy League graduate and high school valedictorian accused in the murder of health insurance CEO Brian Thompson.
Yeah, let's see this moment. It is actually sort of something to watch. He was trying to send a message, but police rush him off very quickly.
And it's completely out of touch, and it's an insult to the intelligence of the American people. It's a lived experience.
All right, so we just heard him yell that about it, sort of something being unjust is an insult to the intelligence of the American people. Let's bring in trial attorney Mercedes Colwin with us. Look, this is someone between what you're hearing him say right there, manifesto, messages left on these bullets. Right. I mean, this is someone on a mission, it appears. He is the alleged killer in this case. We have to be very clear about that. He's facing an extradition hearing here, but I just wonder what you think of a moment like that as you see it, knowing the evidence that police say they have on this person.
Brianna, it's very disturbing, and those types of outbursts will certainly be evaluated by his defense team because that's just not normal. I mean, we've already had reports that he has been very strange since over the summer, that he has become reclusive. This manifesto is these rantings and ravings of an individual that obviously has some aberrant thoughts in his mind, and that's why he put it down on paper. So all of that is certainly very disturbing. The defense is going to have to evaluate whether this is an individual that really will even understand the charges. I mean, they may, depending on how aberrant his thoughts are, he has to be able to understand the process and the proceedings, even at this stage. And if there's some indication that he isn't able to do so, there might have to be some psychological evaluation, and then that will be reported back to the judge, and the judge will make the ultimate ruling as to whether or not to proceed with the proceeding. But this type of outburst is definitely very disturbing.
Yeah, no doubt about that. You saw officers shuffling him in as quickly as possible. I'm wondering, Mercedes, as you're talking about the suspect here having a grasp of what the proceedings are going to be like, what actually happens at an extradition hearing?
There has to be an establishment by the demanding state. Demanding state is New York. The asylum state is Pennsylvania. So the demanding state, that New York has to establish to law enforcement that this is the individual that was the alleged shooter of Brian Thompson. So they'll have to go through the evidence that we've already described, the manifesto, the ghost gun, the images that we saw, even the eyewitness. They may even bring in some of the eyewitness who was discovered. The arresting officer in Pennsylvania will come forward and talk about the exchange that he had with Mangione. It's already been reported that arresting officer, when asked Mangione, the first words out of his mouth, it's been reported, he asked Mangione, were you in New York? And certainly Mangione, at least this officer, claims that he was very nervous when asked that question. So there will be testimony, there will be evidence, but Mangione can waive it. I mean, depending on whether he waives it, it doesn't sound, to Brianna's point, doesn't sound like he may waive the hearing. And if he does waive the hearing, then he will be extradited without any further process. It doesn't sound like that's going to happen. It will have to be. It certainly sounds like there will be this process with witnesses and evidence being set forth before the judge. And the judge will make the ultimate ruling that there is probable cause to establish that Mangione is, in fact, the alleged killer of Brian Thompson.
And we are anticipating news out of that hearing soon. Mercedes Colwin, thank you so much for giving us your analysis. CNN's Bryn Gingras has been covering every twist and turn on this case. Bryn, what is happening at this extradition hearing?
Yeah, so listen, Boris, we have a reporter inside the courtroom right now. They're not allowed to have any sort of communication. So we don't quite know just yet if that hearing has started. We're still waiting to get an update. But you can see, we know that he is inside that courthouse, at least from that sort of combative moment there, as you showed the viewers, where it took several sheriff's deputies to calm him down and get him inside of that building. As you said, this is really the first time that we are hearing from him, his own voice. We do know that that he does have a defense attorney who's representing him for this extradition hearing. We know that New York asked for this extradition. A warrant for his arrest has been issued. So it's now up to the trial judge to go forward with this, for the judge rather, to go forward with this hearing. And he has the decision to either fight it or to actually move forward, where people from the NYPD and Marshal's office will bring him here to New York. And we're learning that that could happen sometime tonight, could be even sometime tomorrow.
And Bryn, what are we learning about a potential motive?
Yeah, so Boris, there's an intelligence report that is shared among the intelligence community all across the country that came from the NYPD, received by our John Miller, and it really gives some more details about that 3-page document that authorities did find on Mangione, they say, when they made that arrest. And it talks about sort of his hatred with the healthcare industry, and it talks about how he somewhat viewed himself as, committing a symbolic takedown with this alleged act that he is accused of. In it, he basically said the mafioso has gotten too powerful and to continue the abuse of our country for immense profit. And he kind of paints himself, according to this report, as somewhat of a hero, saying that evidently I am the first to face it with such brutal honesty. Now, of course, you've heard Governor Shapiro from Pennsylvania come out. You've seen the New York governor come out and say he is no hero. Of course, we should not be celebrating this person, but it certainly is giving a little bit more detail as to a motive possibly of why he is accused of this horrific crime. We also are learning more from friends and family, right? We have been talking to many people, some who have lived with him, some people who knew him in college and high school, who say, they were, close to him over social media or keeping in touch with him, but he sort of fell off the grid this last summer. And one person we spoke to talked about a back injury that he was dealing with, which also might be something that could be connecting the dots to the healthcare industry. But let's hear more from this person who actually lived with him in Hawaii at one point.
Before he moved in, I remember he said he had a back issue and he was hoping to get stronger in Hawaii. When he first came, he went on a surf lesson with other members, and unfortunately, just a basic surf lesson, he was in bed for about a week. We had to get a different bed for him that was more firm, and I know it was really traumatic and difficult. When you're in your early 20s and you can't, do some basic things, it can be really, really difficult.
Yeah, again, these are all sort of the things that police are going to be using to connect the dots and try to point to a motive, try to build their case. We know that they've also, of course, scrubbed social media in their efforts in this investigation. As I said, we are now waiting for this extradition hearing to happen, and it's possible that Luigi Mangione may be on his way to New York at the soonest, maybe tonight, Boris.
Bryn Gingras, thank you so much for keeping an eye on that. Brianna?
Experts say the suspected killer of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson planned his attack well, but also made some crucial mistakes. So let's take a look at what police say are his key moves and also the evidence left behind and what this all says about the gunman's strategy. Before the killing, the suspect cleverly avoided air travel because, of course, had he taken a plane, he would have had to show his ID, reveal his entire face under security cameras. If he had a gun at the time, it probably would have been detected during luggage screening. Instead, the suspect took a Greyhound bus to New York, a bus that originated in Atlanta, though we still have to wait and see where he may have gotten on that bus. The suspect stayed in a hostel in New York using a fake New Jersey driver's license and paying cash, again, avoiding a digital trail there. The suspect was careful up until this point, including diligently wearing a mask over his face. This was that rare image of the suspect's unmasked face captured on surveillance video when a hostel employee flirted with him and asked him to lower his face mask. And it was these images, of course, that helped spread his identity across the country and even around the world. Then lastly, the suspect used a ghost gun, which is an untraceable self-assembled firearm. Kept law enforcement veterans puzzled here. Police saying when Mangione was arrested at that Pennsylvania McDonald's, local officers discovered this ghost gun when they were searching him. And then after the killing, the suspect seemingly left a trail of evidence behind: a discarded Starbucks water bottle, an energy bar wrapper, a burner phone that gave authorities DNA material, and a partial fingerprint to work with. Later, that distinctive backpack resembling the one worn by the gunman was found in Central Park. Authorities hoping DNA samples from all of these items would help identify the suspect. Testing, though, yielded no DNA or fingerprint matches in law enforcement databases. So we're going to see, though, how those pieces of evidence are going to be used by authorities now that the suspect has been arrested. And the suspect's complex path out of New York showing investigators just how much planning went into it here. Remember, immediately after the shooting, police say the suspect ran from the scene, hopped on an e-bike, rode to Central Park, ditched the bike, and hailed a taxi, then went to a bus terminal with interstate buses headed to a variety of destinations. And it was in that taxi cab where a security camera captured clear images of the suspect's eyes. One of the most baffling last aspects to this arrest is the fact that investigators discovered Mangione in possession of numerous fake IDs, including this one here, one that police believe was actually used by the suspect in New York City at that hostel. The question is, why shed so much other evidence, but keep some pieces of potential evidence, including the fake IDs?